Alrighty. Okay. Well, I want to welcome everybody here this morning. My name is Brek Maxon. I am the Business and Finance Advisor here at the Native American Development Center, located here in Bismarck on 2403, 24th Street and Thayer. We have a big center here, big building, and I've got some team members on here and they can attest to that. We have a pretty cool building. I know our speaker's been here too. So what I want to do real quick before we kick off, I'm just going to just briefly talk about our program just for a couple minutes here, just to let everybody know. I know we've got one of our clients, she's been with us for a little while, and we have a new client that we're onboarding since last week, possibly here. And I just want to let everybody know what we do over here on the NADC side. We're part of a bigger organization, NADC and Native Inc. And Native Inc. and NADC, our Native American Development Center, are dedicated towards helping our Native American people here in Bismarck and Mandan, and also, across the state whenever possible. But for the immediate area, we provide services to our Native individuals and non-natives as well in some cases, whether it's to help them to find housing, help them to navigate moving from the reservation into the city here in Bismarck, Mandan, things like that, just helping them to get their feet on the ground and help point them in the right direction, offer support, etc. I know that we have a homeless population here in town, and I know that our teammates, our peer counselors, do everything they can with the resources they have to help our people whenever possible. And that's on the Native Inc. side. On the Native American Development Center side, where I reside, I work with a lot of our Native individuals that need some help with consumer credit counseling, to help them out on their credit scores, their credit reports, if they've got some dings. Life happens, and we're here to help. It's all a free service. We don't charge anything. You come on in and we can just rap about your situation. I sit down and I shut up and I listen to what's happening in your world, and then we try to come up with a solution and try to help you out, so that you can get on with your life, whether it be, to purchase a car or get into a home, whatever the case may be. Your personal credit is interlinked with everything in the world. So we know how important that is, to have that, that clean credit report or almost clean, and a credit score, that will help give you access to credit, so that's a challenge there. The other hat that I wear is working with our Native American entrepreneurs. I come from the economic development side of things. For many years, I worked out at United Tribes Technical College first as a packager and small business counselor, and then eventually taking over the reins as the project director for our Native American Business Development Center out there on campus for many, many years. When I came on board here, we were just, I know that we had a program going. We are working with OESTA. They're kind of our funding source here to help individuals, whether it be for the consumer credit, or also the other hat I was mentioning is the micro enterprise, working with our Native entrepreneurs out there, helping them talk about their small businesses, whether it's a new startup or whether it's an existing company and they want to expand, or maybe they're having some issues. We can help get in there and troubleshoot if necessary and try to help them out. We've got a micro enterprise small business loan program that goes all the way up to $20,000. It's a micro loan, but it can, work with other loan programs out there as well. Whatever it takes, to help our entrepreneurs, to help them get their doors open or stay open. So we also have onboarded. We got a new back in May. Around May, we got a new loan officer, Taylor Kellan. She's on maternity right now, but she'll be back in, I suppose, in about a month or so. But she's our loan officer, and she reviews all of the applications, whether it be for the micro enterprise loan or the the credit builder loan for our consumer credit applicants as well. So with that, just a little bit of housekeeping there. And then also too, just to let everybody know, next week I'm playing catch up here. We had Kevin with Almost Home Solutions scheduled last month, but because of the big storm, we had to reschedule. So we're getting it in under our belt today. And then next week, I'm going to also be talking about small business plans and the importance of the small business plan. And I'll make sure to resend. I'll email blast out that flyer, and if anybody has any questions, you're more than welcome to give me a call if you have any questions about that webinar. So with that housekeeping out of the way here, let's get things rolling here. I'd like to introduce our guest, Mr. Kevin Kellan here, who's going to talk a little bit about home ownership and how to get the keys to that house, that your dream house, and how we all know there's challenges to getting into a home, but I had this young gentleman come into my office one day, and we struck up a awesome conversation, and he explained to me this company that he started with this unique concept that I thought was like, wow, I'd never really heard about this before. You hear about rent to own for this and that, but rent to own for a home? Wow. So I knew in the back of my mind, we got to get this guy on. We got to get him out there and get him some publicity and get him some notoriety here in the Indian community. And I'm really pleased and happy to have him on today. I know that during our early discussions, he was working towards getting on the Million Cup program to talk about his business, which is a big deal. And boy, they really vet you, all the speakers that come on there. And this is another nationwide program for entrepreneurs. And if Kevin wants to talk a little bit about that too, that experience, I'd be more than happy to hear more about that. And I'm sure that you all would be interested in that as well. So, with that, Kevin, go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know a little bit more about yourself and Almost Home.
Absolutely. Brek, I just want to say thank you. I'm just glad to be a part of what you guys are doing. My name is Kevin Kellan. If you did not know, I am the son of an athlete and also an entrepreneur. My dad is also an entrepreneur. And so I got to learn a little bit about what that looks like and what that means and exactly, why do people become entrepreneurs? And I'm sure people at times wonder what made me want to create a concept like this, what made me want to be a part of a business like this. It's just to help people. I mean, I'm just listening to you, Brek, kind of introduce, what NADC does and how you do the things that you do. And it all comes down to just helping people. You want to be able to serve people. I think as a believer, one of the things that, my favorite teacher and master teaches, Jesus, he says that I did not come to be served, but I came to serve. And so that concept is kind of one of the things that woke me up one day and said, well, I'm always walking around consuming. What can I do to contribute to people's lives, right? Instead of finding ways to take from people's lives. And I guarantee you, if I can find out what it is that I care about, who it is that I care about, what it is that I'm capable of and that I can do, I can find something that I'm able to do. And and I'm sure that that's the same thing that happens with you guys as entrepreneurs when they come in. They're like, well, I have this skill. I have something that I can do. And I have a way that I want to help people. I just don't know the process, right? And so I appreciate that you guys actually help in that process. Almost Home Solutions came about because I experienced something very similar in my own life and seeing that, going to college, starting a business, I started to run into all of these hurdles and obstacles when it came to try to get into home ownership. And so I was like, there's got to be a solution for this. And lo and behold, since I've been here in North Dakota, I've only been here in North Dakota for about 4 winters. So I think I'm pretty.
Oh yeah.
Like this was probably the first time I ever see a car completely buried under the snow. So, and I tell people because I'm originally from, little old Mississippi down south. And I usually tell people back home, and they still believe that I'm living in like an igloo or something. And it's like, no, they have houses here. They do. They have houses. I'm not living in Alaska. And even in Alaska, they have, great housing opportunities. But it's just funny, like when you don't go to different places, the things you don't know about the world that you live in. And so I was able to get introduced to that. And once I started to go to different places in our country and even places out of the country doing missions, I started to notice that there's 3 specific things that, every person needs. Actually 4. That's water, food, shelter, and community. And I asked myself when I was building Almost Home Solutions, before I found a name, before I found an idea, before I found a brand, what did I want to contribute? Which one of those 4 things did I want to contribute to? And so I chose shelter and community, simply because, like you mentioned earlier in your conversation, just about, being here, there was this, constant, not very large, but like there was a constant, kind of awareness that there were people who were truly struggling to find housing. There were people who were truly struggling. I see them standing at the end of highways, and it's very heartbreaking to see, those people in those situations, and you kind of just want to ask them, what is your circumstance? And that's what we miss, I feel like, as a community, right? There's not a community that comes around, people who are really struggling in that area and say, what can we contribute to you besides money? And what I learned from a beautiful book, and in Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, it says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. And I was like, that's perfect for me, because I'm a teacher. I love to teach, and I love to share information with people. And I would gain as much information as possible just to be able to teach somebody what it is that they don't know, because what you don't know, you don't do. And when you don't do, you don't grow. And when you don't grow, well, you got nowhere to go. And so that's pretty much how Almost Home Solutions came about. Me wanted to contribute to the lives of people who didn't have what I have, and seeing in my own life that I was unable, the traditional route, get to where I wanted to get to, which was home ownership. Now that my beautiful baby boy is on the way, I'm really excited about that. Just knowing that all the things that I'm learning and all the people that I'm able to help, I can take all of that I'm learning, all that I'm doing, I can give that to him, and he can also have a skill set to be able to help others whenever he has the opportunity. So Almost Home Solutions came pretty much out of my own situation. This isn't just something that I made up, that I was just like, hey, how could I, try to make a lot of money? It's like, no. If this is what's happening to me, if I'm struggling to get to home ownership, I know that there's other people struggling to get to home ownership, because either somebody has the same circumstance as me or somebody has a worse circumstance as me. So what can we do to show people that, hey, even though this path is not a path that we can take, there's another path that we can take. And so Almost Home Solutions happens to be one of those paths. And so I just appreciate the opportunity of being here. And I guess I can get to talking to you guys about how, I met Brek, and he mentioned that I came into the office one day and I got to talking on the phone. I actually looked into you guys' website, and I said, man, this is a place that really cares about giving to a community that sometimes gets overlooked. And I see that happen all the time. And knowing that there's a group of people out there, a community out there that wants to give to people and give to their people, I was like, I got to be a part of that. And so we got to get to know each other a little bit. I'm still trying to catch up to him. He's got 5. I've only got 1. Hopefully I'll pass him and I'll get to 8. And we're talking about children here because I love family. I really, really, really love the idea and concept of family. And we can help anybody at Almost Home Solutions, but it's the families that really get you excited. Cause kids, they get to see a new house. They get to have this idea of a backyard. Parents get to enjoy their own privacy and not be surrounded by people at all times, but they get their own space. It's just a beautiful thing being able to contribute to this idea, this dream that we've always had here in the United States of America, and having something that belongs to you, your own opportunity at homeownership is just a beautiful thing. And so I'm glad to be a part of it. And I know, everyone at Almost Home is glad to be a part of it. So I actually want to share with you guys exactly what it is that we do. So I'm going to pull up our slide here. Brek, is that looking pretty good? Can you guys see that?
Yep, you're looking A-okay.
Perfect. Well, like I said, we're Almost Home Solutions, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of a story. I love grandparents. I think I love any set of grandparents, but I especially love my grandparents. And one of the wisest things that my grandfather ever told me in his time of coming of age is, in his experience, oftentimes he heard the word no. He always tried to, make something great of himself. And he would go to someone and say, hey, I have this wonderful idea. I wonder if you could help me out. And someone would say no. Or he'd go to a store and say, hey, I'd like to be able to do this, this, and this. And someone would tell him no. And sometimes, he would realize that the person that he was talking to just didn't have either the authority or the understanding that they needed to be able to get him a yes. So he said, no matter what you do, no matter the people that you meet, always, always, always never take a no from someone who can't tell you yes. And that's always been an important thing for me. And that's an important thing for Almost Home, because we see it all the time, right? There's a family, they have this dream, they're driving by down the road and they find this beautiful house. And they're like, oh my gosh, we should see about buying this house. And they go to the bank, or they, go to some type of lender. And the lender tells them, hey, you gotta be qualified. So we need this, 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 and this. And then, lo and behold, the family is like, okay, that's easy. We'll just get you that information. And they send in all of that information and they're told no. And usually what I've noticed after talking to different families and different people is, after they get their first no, they don't continue to seek out what are other opportunities. They just say, nope, we're not qualified. So there's nothing that we can really do about it. And so what ends up happening is that lender will give them a whole list of things that says, if you can fix all of these things, then you can come back and we'll lend you what you need to be able to buy the home that you want. Well, we know how the market is. Now, unless it's a terrible market and no houses are being bought, there's more than likely that the house that family truly wanted is probably going to get bought by somebody else. And so when you understand, one of the things I try to share with families is never, ever, ever take a no from someone that can't tell you yes. And that's what we try to do. We try to be the organization, the people, the community, the family that tells other families, hey, we can be the people that tell you yes, and we can find a way to make it happen. Even if you don't know all the ins and outs, we'll teach you, we'll show you, and we'll make this thing possible for you. We'll take an impossible situation and we'll make it possible. And so the way that we do that, we call it the 3 E's. The way that we pretty much created the concept is, we wanted it to be easy, we wanted it to be a great experience, and we wanted it to be for everyone, right? There's no bias when it comes to anybody who's unable to get qualified. We can help anyone that's unable to get qualified. Whether you're the entrepreneur who just started your business and you wanted to be able to buy a home at the same time, but we know there's something called debt to income ratio, right? And when you're an entrepreneur, your income is not necessarily stable, because, you can make so much more this month and then not make that much next month. Or it's even, with taxes and write-offs and all of these different things, there's not as much that's probably claimed because of what you're putting into your business. And so when businesses, or when banks and lenders look at this on paper, they say that it's not enough for them to qualify you. Or you could be, the family that's been renting forever, and you've never even taken the opportunity to say, I wonder if we're even able to get qualified. Like, sometimes I run into those situations where people will come and they say, well, we've only ever rented. And I'm like, well, what's your credit score? And I'm like, hey, maybe you should try to see if you can get qualified, because you have some great credentials. Like, people would have amazing credentials and desire home ownership and not even know that they're in a position to be able to have home ownership. So there's so many different scenarios, where I've seen the process and the concept that we use be able to help people. And it doesn't just help buyers, it also helps sellers as well. I mean, there's been times where, you know, families have wanted to get rid of homes, but they didn't want to have to go through, you know, the realtor and title companies and all of these different things that are involved with the buy and sell process. So, you know, we would help them and we would say, well, hey, we have a pool of people who are always looking for housing opportunities through our lease option concept, and they would probably love your home, and we give them that opportunity. So that way, not only are they able to sell their home, but they're also able to sell to someone that they're able to help. So it's all about bringing community together to be able to do things that, you know, most people didn't think were possible. And so the reason why we chose working with unqualified people, well, let me just put it like this. I'll say this instead. You know, what does it actually mean to be qualified? And that means it means to be entitled to a particular benefit or privilege by fulfilling a necessary condition. And usually, just like Brek mentioned in the beginning of the conversation, is whenever we have these conversations with families and other persons, you know, the number one thing I ask is, you know, what's your situation? Where are you right now? And where do you want to be? Those are the two most important questions that I tend to ask people is, where are you right now? And where do you want to be? And how can we create a bridge? How can we create a path to be able to get you to where you want to go? And that's where we come in. We give all the information to be able to qualify them. And what it means to qualify someone is to make someone competent or knowledgeable enough to be able to do something. And that's what we do. We take people from the position that they're in and we put them in a better position to be able to do what it is that someone told them that they could not do. We became the yes when someone else told them no. And I love that. I love being able to be that person. And so just to give you guys an idea of how we're different, I want to show you pretty much the two ways that people are familiar with. Usually people are only familiar with conventional financing and renting, right? So this is your, you know, Bank of America, you know, community trust banks, you know, your credit unions, your banks in the area, big banks that you go to, and you pretty much just get a basic mortgage, right? Where, you know, if you wanted to be able to buy a $100,000 house, usually, you know, you got to come with that 20%. And that 20% sometimes is a tough circumstance for a lot of people, depending on where they are and what they're actually doing. And so a lot of people don't have that. So they go to renting. And the only issue with renting is we know that most of the time, the places that are being rented to these families are owned by investors. And these investors are pretty much setting their rental payments in a way that's going to, you know, feed themselves. And not only that, but also pay off the mortgage. So a lot of times people think, hey, if I'm renting, I don't have a mortgage. Well, technically, when you're renting, you're still paying someone else's mortgage, but even though the mortgage is not in your name. And that pretty much has the investor sitting with no payments. That person is not making any payments. That person is not, you know, having to, you know, deal with the financial burden, because that financial burden is being taken care of by the tenant, but they do still have to, you know, take care of the maintenance, repairs, and all those things. But usually when it comes to people who wanted to be able to get to housing, there's two ways to do it, and that's conventional and that's rent payments. But for us, we're a community of what I like to call creative deal makers, right? We're a creative people. And the reason I wanted to do something more creative is because, well, I am created after a creator, right? And after I understood that if I was made in his image and he's a creator, then I should be creative too, right? I should be able to look at a situation and say, no, this is not a black and white answer. There's some gray here, and gray is not always bad. Gray can be good because where there's conventional financing with banks, if they tell you no, you have all types of organizations that are out there. I mean, there's a company called Jack Properties. There's Home Equity Partners that's actually in Fargo. There's a organization you know, called Ribbon. There's multiple ones out there, Divvy, and they do something very similar. But the most important thing that they do is to be able to make unqualified buyers qualified to be able to do something that someone told them that was impossible. We all make it possible. And so what I wanted to be able to share with you guys is, how did we even get to this situation where we even needed creative deal makers, creative financiers, companies that were willing to say, hey, we're going to create a new path, to a more bold path, to be able to help as many people as we possibly can. Because I don't know if you guys knew this, but usually the number of people who are even able and in a position to be able to buy housing is only 20% of the population. So you're telling me that there's an entire large pool of people out there that desires to have the American dream, but nobody's helping this large mass of people. So we wanted to be a part of that group. And that's where these creative financiers come from. But if you're looking at this chart here, something really simple I wanted to be able to show you guys is, if you look toward the middle, right down at the bottom, you have years, right? You have 1891, 1905, 1919, 1933. Well, between 1933 and 1947 is a year, I believe 1934. And that is the year that our government decided to do something about the issue of a decline in home. Do was create the Federal Housing Administration. And we know that through the Federal Housing Administration was created the FHA loan. And this was to give an opportunity for people to not have to come with that 20% down, but they could come with 3% down, 3.5% down. And what that did, that actually skyrocketed the amount of people who are willing to take that step to chasing after the American dream and being able to go after the desire that they had of being able to own their own home. But even in today's time, as we get further and further along, we see in the generations that things are starting to change, right? That as our much more mature, I will say, community gets older, they're starting to want to become sellers. They're starting to want to downsize. They want to move into, more of a condo where they don't have to take care of so much maintenance. And they want to sell these homes. But the issue is, if you haven't noticed, since the year 2000, since technology kind of took off, our generation only likes new things. And the issue with it is, most of the homes that our older generations, like our boomers, have owned in the past, are a lot older, right? These homes are a lot older, and this new generation isn't really looking for something of that nature, but the properties that are even available to someone like millennials, or even as Gen Zers get older and want to be able to look into possibly buying homes, they want things that are a lot newer. And as fast as home builders are able to build, they can't build fast enough compared to the amount of houses that we have where older generations have to sell. So, what do you do about that? Well, don't work with the 20%, work with the larger pool of people that are like, hey, I want to own a home. I want to be able to do this, but I'm unable to do it. Well, I was told I was unable to do it, and now we're telling you that you can do it. So this is actually something that is really powerful, that I believe was necessary, is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is home ownership to personal success? And pretty much what happened here is, a group of people were asked amongst these different generations. I'm going to share with you what each person said. And the silent generation, which is the generation of 1928 to 45, right? That's kind of during the Great Depression era, was only 43%, because everybody was struggling, right? But as things got better, you had boomers who were 45% of people, and then Generation X was 41%, 34% is millennials, and 23%. So you start to see that even though the American dream is something that's talked about often, and we know that, living in the United States is one of the most beautiful countries that we could actually live in our world, the idea and the philosophy that is not being passed on, that home ownership is actually important to personal success. And so, what are we supposed to do with that? Well, the reason I believe that a lot of us continue, as the generations go further and further along, don't believe that home ownership is important to personal success, is just because it can't be obtained. And usually to justify our decision for not wanting to get qualified or not wanting to find other pathways to be able to get to home ownership. What I've noticed is that we kind of just fall back into this, well, I'll just rent forever mentality. I mean, I hear that all the time. It's like, I'll talk to different renters and I'll say, what kind of makes you decide that you never wanted to buy a home? It was like, well, I don't want to have to do this and I don't want to have to do this. I kind of just want to rent forever. And it baffles me because we know that most of the wealth in the world is actually created from home ownership. I want to say that 80%, between 80 and 90% of millionaires are created because of housing and because of real estate and because of home ownership. And so I had to ask myself, what is really going on? Because I'll give you a little bit of more background about myself. Before I started doing real estate and home ownership, I worked with adolescent youth and families in counseling and being able to, talk through issues and being able to get families to a place where they succeed emotionally, mentally, and within their family to be able to create a place of peace and not strife and not tension and not confusion and destruction and disruption. And so being able to ask questions, dig deeper, and see that there's obviously something else that's going on, but I'm just using this blanket to justify why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. And so these are the three things that I have noticed in the majority of the times why people don't choose home ownership is because of, one, where standard housing is currently, and, not being able to get houses that are up to the standard that, younger generations are looking for, innovating income. How many people do you know or have heard of that are changing the way that they make money, that they make monthly income? They're doing it online. They're doing it through being entrepreneurs. I mean, I think it's crazy how COVID even skyrocketed the number of entrepreneurs that there has ever been in our country. And so a lot of people are saying there's another way to do this rather than the way we've always done it. And so that's just the kind of the philosophy of today's generation is there's another way to do this. And so we became that as well. There's another way to do this. And last but not least, which I think is the toughest, is student. All the people who are going to college and realizing that getting into debt puts a huge strain on the opportunities that you're able to have, especially when it comes to financial means or housing needs, economic means, because of how much of a strain really student debt really is. I know that I had to realize really quickly when I was younger, I really don't want to go into student debt. So I have to do everything that I possibly can with my grades, with my to connect with teachers who would give me great references, even if I had to, bring them cake for their birthday, whatever I had to do to be able to kind of sucker up to them and say, hey, you want to write me a great letter of recommendation to be able to get, the scholarships that I needed to be able to go to school, absolutely free. But not everybody has that opportunity, right? Not everybody has that opportunity. So what can we do to be able to help people in that category where debt gave them what they needed to excel? It became a weight that is holding them down from getting to the place that they want to get to. I'll share with this with you as well. It says, according to American Housing Survey, the median year in which homes were built in the United States was 1974. So we're talking about, up to this season and this year of our lives, this makes the average age of homes 48 years old in 2020. So when it comes to standard housing, what's happening is, like I mentioned, there's not any that are in the age range that people are looking for. Because usually the older the house is, the more problems you run into, right? If you bring out a home inspector to come and, do your due diligence, do your regular inspection when you're getting ready to purchase a home, there's usually like this huge list of things that they're saying is going on with this home when they're a lot older. But what I'm starting to see, a lot of generations working with, home builders, new construction, and even you see a lot of renovating going on. So people will go in, buy those older homes, renovate them completely, and then sell them on the open market. But you can only do that so quickly. You can only do so many of those at a time. And there's only a very small amount of people who actually do those things. When it comes to innovating income, like I was talking about before, in the year 2020, 4.3 million businesses came out of that year, mostly because of COVID, like I mentioned. But can you imagine that being businesses being listed? And that's not even all, that's just the businesses that were actually, listed with their state, that actually filed for an LLC. We're not even talking about the businesses that people were doing like freelancing, contract work, all of these type of things. So there's so much innovative income that's going on. And even as we progress into the future, it'll only come more and more and more. Another one is for the last one, which was student debt, is more than 45% of student loan borrowers leave school owing $20,000 or more. I'm not sure how close that is with how, that works for your organization and how, the schools that are, that are contributing to the Native American community, they try to do everything that they can to be able to contribute to making sure this situation doesn't happen. But for those who go to, regular public institutions or even sometimes private institutions, they could end up in a lot of debt when it comes to being able to finish school, being able to go through whatever degree that they want to go through. And unless, you're going into a high paying field, usually when you're racking up all of these student loan debts, it's like you end up getting a degree that doesn't really correlate to you being able to pay off your student loan debt in a significant, short, significant amount of time. It's usually over years and years and years. And so with all of these things in mind, which multiple ones I've even experienced myself, I'm sitting here looking at this thing like, I have the idea of being able to say, hey, I like the way older houses look. I like the structure of older houses. Let's go in and fix this house up. And my wife gives me, the dirtiest look. And she's like, we're not doing that. She's like, hey, I don't want to live in an underdeveloped house and then develop it ourselves. And I'm like, okay, happy wife, happy life, and she's like looking, she sees housing with her eyes first. I see it with my mind. I have the imagination. She's like, no, I want to move into something that looks good, feels good, that I can enjoy as soon as I walk in. And I'm like, okay. And then being an entrepreneur, being able to start a business and looking at that situation and saying, our debt to income, it may not work for lenders and banks. And then not on top of that, the idea of wanting to go back to school. But now at this point, it's like, if I go back, I'm probably going to have to take out student loans. And so run into these different situations. It came about us, almost home. We wanted to do a better, bolder path for a better, bolder America to be able to qualify the unqualified by giving everyone an opportunity at success through home ownership. And that is our mission. And that's the number one thing that I care about, is giving everyone an opportunity at success through home ownership, right? And it's a simple process. And I'll get into this process and I'll show you exactly what it looks like. It's a 7-step process. Why did I choose the number 7? Well, as a believing man, I know that the number 7 is the number of completion. It's the number of wholeness. And so if I wanted to create something that gets someone from A to B to get them to the place that they wanted to be, I was like, how do I make this as simple as possible? I was like, I'm just going to produce 7 steps. And the way that buyers will come in and do it is they simply apply, they get approved with us, they find the home that they want to buy. We come in and we make an offer, usually a cash offer. Sometimes we'll do traditional offers, depending on the team that we're working with. And then that family, guess what? After we make the offer and the seller accepts that offer, that family moves in. That family is then given a financial plan that says, here's where you are. Here's what you need to get. Here are your monthly payments. Here's how much down payment you'll need to develop over a 1 to 2 to 3 year period. so that you can get to a place where right now you may be unqualified, but guess what? We're going to bring a team around you that's going to get you to a position of being qualified so that you can buy your home back from us. And this is the lose your home, right? Because we've said it at the beginning of the conversation that what usually happens is when a family sees that home, they go to the bank, they want to get a loan, and they can't, they qualify, and another family comes in, buys that home. And they never try again because they've received that disappointment. Well, with us, it's don't receive that disappointment. They told you no, go to someone who can tell you yes. Guess what? That's us. We can tell you yes. And you come to us with your situation and we say, well, perfect. All you got to do is apply. We'll get you approved. You'll go out, find the house. Oh, you already found the house? Beautiful. Let's start making offers on that house, right? And we'll work with our capital, or we'll work with a local mortgage broker that's going to work with you to be able to get you to the place that you need to be. Or you can work with the NADC. They're going to help get you where your credit needs to be. They help you understand, your finances, get your income where it needs to be. This is all goes back to those 4 things that I talked about earlier: food, shelter, community, and water, right? And we're giving you 2 of those things, right? Which is community and shelter. We're providing you an opportunity at housing that you didn't have before, and we're also giving you a community of people that you didn't even know you had access to. Like, you'd be surprised by how many conversations I've had with people, and I talk to them and I say, do you know what a mortgage broker is? And they tell you no. They have no idea the community of entrepreneurs and loan officers and places like the NADC that are available to them, waiting for them, saying, we are here for you. We're here to help you. And people don't even know that we're there. So this is that system for our buyers. We also have a system for our sellers, right? Like I mentioned before, where sometimes we'll work with sellers that are struggling to get their home sold, or they have a certain situation, or they're struggling with foreclosure. I think that as much as I love helping families get into homes, the one thing that I love more than is helping families not lose their homes. Number one situation that we see all the time, not here in North Dakota so much, in other areas around the country. Being able to bring them and qualify their situation, qualify their homes, approve them and say, hey, here's what we can do. We'll make you this offer. We'll do this thing for you. What we're going to do is we're going to take all of our buyers that are in our database, and we're going to present your house to them. And if anyone in that database wants to buy your home, we're going to create a system that gets you out of the situation that you're currently in. We're going to bring in a buyer, have them move in, set them up for you not to have your home go into foreclosure, but 1, create another income stream for you, 2, have someone buy, and 3, be able to not have to go to foreclosure. I mean, there are other situations that we have as well where we do whatever we can for the families that want to stay in their homes. We have systems for that as well. But this one specifically is to be able to not only help a seller, but also help a buyer at the same time, and bring those 2 people together to say, here's what I have, here's my problem, here's what I have, here's my problem. Can we use what we have for each other to be able to solve each other's problems? And we bring those 2 people together and we say, you can solve each other's problem by applying, getting your home approved, having us make an offer to be able to bring that buyer in. That buyer moves in. We'll manage that buyer. And then you can sell your home to that buyer later on at the end for them to be able to have an opportunity at home ownership. And you don't have to take that major hit on your credit report, because we've seen that happen. So this is how we do what it is that we do, because we see that there are these problems that are out there. We see it often, and as the market is turning for people who have had to buy homes recently, they're kind of underwater right now and they're struggling. They're trying to figure out what is the best option. And we happen to be that best option. There are families right now that are saying, hey, I really want to have the opportunity at home ownership, but I just don't know how to do it. We're that solution for them. There are families that are saying, hey, I really want to start a business, but I also want to be able to have the opportunity to get into my own home. We can be that solution for family entrepreneurs. There are people saying, hey, I want to move to a new state, but I don't want to have to rent and then try to learn about the area and then move into a home. I enjoy living in a home. It's like, hey, you can still live in a home, because here's the beautiful thing. Here's the best thing about the program is, if it just so happens that you get into the program and something doesn't work out, you have the freedom to walk away. And we don't penalize you. Why? Because we have something in our agreement with you called life happens, right? Because we know that life really does happen. Sometimes people get divorces. Sometimes people split up. Sometimes people pass away. Sometimes incomes fall. And like, when you find yourself in these situations, we're not gonna say, well, you still gotta follow your agreement. We're gonna say, you know what? This is your situation. Let us help focus on this situation. And you have the freedom to walk away having any other financial burdens inside the home. So I'm sure you guys have plenty of questions. And I can keep going on and on and on, because I love talking about this stuff. I love talking about how, that there is something out there that people don't even know it exists. People don't even know the opportunities they have. And so what can we do to be able to help our communities? What can we be able to do to be a solution for them whenever there's problems going on, when it comes to housing and when it comes to them not having the community or the network that says you should do this, 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 and this? Because we wanted to be the people that qualifies the unqualified and makes impossible possible, so that we can do things that nobody else can, so that people can have the things that they've always wanted. So I appreciate you guys.
Excellent presentation, Kevin. Wonderful. So I know we're a small group today, and that's perfectly fine. And we might have some questions here. What I'm going to do is, if you have a question, just hit me in the chat here, and I'll turn your mic on, and or even ask your question in the chat if you so desire, and we'll watch it. Kevin, can you see the chat from your side? Okay.
Let's see. I don't
Look
think
for the
I
little
can.
chat bubble. You have the little chat icon, or I'll watch it too. Do we have any questions?
Yeah. Read off those for me if you don't mind, Brek.
Do we have anybody with a question today? Nothing yet. One question that I have is, what's your service area, Kevin? Is it just Bismarck-Mandan or statewide, or what's your playground that you get to play in?
So what we try to normally do is we vet specific markets. So we're still growing, right? We're still pretty small, but we vet different areas, right? Bismarck-Mandan was what we would call the OG, was the original market that we started in. And we said, we know that there are other places where people need this exact thing. There are places where we can share with people. And so basically what we started is, we kind of just followed with what we started with Bismarck. And we just kept with capital cities, where most people spend a lot of time and where there's a much larger population. Because even though North Dakota as a whole is much smaller compared to the nation, Bismarck and Mandan happens to be one of those communities where there are lots of people. There's a lot of productivity going on, a lot of opportunity for employment, a lot of opportunity for housing. You see home builders building all of the time. And the nice thing about a place like Bismarck and Mandan is not predicated on one industry. The success of the city is not predicated on one industry. So if you go to somewhere further north, it's the oil industry, right? But if it just so happens that one political figure makes a change, all of a sudden that completely goes away, right? But in places like Bismarck and Mandan, we try to spend all of our time, because not only are we here, but it's one of those areas where families will always continue to come in, and people will always continue to be able to find employment and be able to create an opportunity for even themselves in entrepreneurship.
I see somebody's typing. Give it a second here.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we noticed is here in North Dakota, the reason why when we got to the point where we wanted to be able to help sellers, we noticed that the issue of foreclosure was not very large in the North Dakota community. But we didn't want to say, they have to fend for themselves if they're from Illinois, or, if they're from, Montana or Minnesota, even Minnesota, we see it happen often. And so we wanted to be able to pour into those areas as well.
Excellent. Did you have a question, Kara? I can turn your mic on. There it is. Okay. Here's another another question. So, individual or a family, they come to you. Oh, here we go. Here's Kara. What has been the most challenging for this program with pandemic effects and inflation?
You know what? This goes back to the point that I made with when you're working in such a large consumer base. So think about your average real estate agent, right? Most of the time, the buyers that they're working with are only qualified buyers. And that's only 20% of the people who want to buy. When you have when you have the other 80%, there hasn't been much of a challenge. We get people all the time that have a desire, because this is not necessarily people don't come after this for the financial gain. They're not trying to do it for the sake of, investing or something like that. People genuinely just want to be able to have a home. So when you have the type of mentality of a person that says, somebody told me that I couldn't have this, but now you're telling me that I can. Hey, people are coming left and right saying, how can you help us? How can you help us? And here's the beautiful thing about it. When you help one person that's in a situation where they can't get qualified, I guarantee you, we've seen it happen, that they know somebody else who's in a situation where they can't get qualified, and they run and tell them, and then they run and tell them, and they run and tell somebody else. And so there's always an influx of opportunity. And so now, do we have to make adjustments? Do we have to underwrite things a little bit different? And what that means is, if you didn't know, is the financial analysis of, what houses do we buy? What areas do we buy in? That does change, but the amount of people who are coming in looking for the opportunity, it's still there. Like, it's still there.
Excellent. Excellent. Did that answer your question, Kara? She's typing. I've got your mic on too, Kara, if you want to chime in. That's perfectly fine. Okay. She's one of our new employees. She might not have a mic set up, or it might not be working right.
Mine's all right.
Okay, here we go. Yes, it's more about networking and less about gains. Okay, yeah, and her mic's not working. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I truly, truly care about is, Zig Ziglar, I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he says, if you help other people get the things that they want, you'll always be able to have the things that you want. We live in a culture where it's all about me first. When, I'll go back to the teachings of Jesus that I love. There was a time where he was with his disciples, and they were trying to figure out who's the greatest disciple. And he doesn't negate them or neglect them, or shun them away from this idea of trying to be great. He actually encourages it. He says, go be great. I want you to be great. But here's how you do it. You become the servant of everyone. Find a way to serve everybody, and you'll always become great. And so that's what I wanted to be able to do. I just want to serve people, want to help people. Absolutely. Networking and bringing people together. If there's something that I can't do, I guarantee you, I know somebody who can do it. So.
Yeah. Okay. So here's another question. Oh yeah, Zig and Breen Brown are, I don't know if I pronounced that right, are wonderful inspirations for empathy. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Kara. Excellent. So here's something, as I was looking at, and you have an awesome website. So I encourage everybody on here today, if you get a chance to get over to Kevin's website and take a look at it. There's an awesome FAQ on there. One of the things I know it might be in the back of people's minds is, well, gosh, Kevin, how much money do I have to have in my pocket to even just have a legitimate chance, you know, to visit with you, to be taken seriously, to get into a
Mhm.
home? There's always a down payment required. What do you guys require, or what is your philosophy, or where do we need to the benchmark for me to start thinking, what do I need to have in my pocket for a down payment to get your help?
Well, usually what we want to do is we want to the lenders that we usually work with, they understand what it is that we do, and so one of the things that they want to see is they want to see people who are in the program get to at least 10 to 12% of a down payment. Now, that's not for us. That's at the end of the program. So at the end of the program, every family or every individual should have saved up at least 10 to 12% of the down payment to be able to buy the home back from us. But when they come into the program to work with us directly, to move in to start the lease option process, we usually only look for 3.5%. So compared to 20%, 3.5%, that's like the FA number, when people aren't able to qualify. But depending on the individual, we're even kind enough to give the opportunity at time for people to come just 2%. And I love that because people are like, 2%. Oh, I could get a lot of things with 2%. And so to just take that 20% and drop the zero and say, hey, you can have the opportunity at home ownership at just 2%. People love that. People appreciate that. And what we do is we work with creating a financial plan that gets you the remainder of that 10% to get to where you need to be able to buy the home back from us at the end of the program.
Okay. What is your
Mm-hmm.
typical time cycle, for individuals and families? Is it a 3 or a 5, or what? How do you figure that out?
We work with mortgage brokers. So we team up with mortgage brokers or credit specialists to say, okay, where are they right now? Okay, the home that they want us to buy, the home that they want us to buy is priced this, right? How long is it going to take for them to get from where they are right now? And so we do it based off that. Like we said, if there's not something that we do specifically, we'll work with other people in the community to be able to help serve them, bring them, individuals that they can help to be able to say, well, they could probably get this taken care of within 2 years. So then we'll create a plan for 2 years. And they're like, well, let's see if we can get them to 3 years. Then we'll plan for 3 years. There are some people who even say, they could probably knock this out in 6 months. Well, we'll only, right? Because we always want to have enough time for that life happens portion, right? We don't ever and then something happens and you're unable to follow through. So we give you enough cushion room to be able to say, well, if, I had to do this because of something medical happened and I ended up getting hit with a medical bill and that was put on my credit report and all of these things, it's like, hey, that's okay. We're here to help you through that. We're here to work with you through that. How can you, build other ways of income? What can you do? Because you still have 6 months left. So you still got plenty of time to be able to get from where you are to where you need to be. So yeah, we figured that out super simple. We work with a team of credit specialists and mortgage brokers. And even, if you have clients yourself, we'll work with you guys to say, well, where are they now? How long is it going to take for them to get to where they need to be to buy the house that they want? And then we'll go based off of that.
Yeah. And that's one luxury we have here on staff. Taylor Kellan, our loan officer, she comes from the home mortgage area herself, working up at MHA Nation with the tribe, working with helping to get local tribal members up there into homes. So it is really nice to have somebody who's got that acumen that background when it comes to home ownership as well too. So let me tell you, so it's a boon for me because I'm not an expert per se. So it's really nice that I've got someone in-house here, just to let everybody know on the call here today that we do have someone who's got if you just want to visit with them, just before you go see Kevin, just to visit with them and find out, are you really ready or not, or what? Do we need to get your ducks in a row with your credit score, your credit report, or things of that nature? Little things that are hanging out there that you don't feel comfortable about, we can definitely visit with you, and then by all means, then we'll get you over to Kevin. And if you feel comfortable and you want to do that, if that's your decision or your choice, we'll try to make it happen. So excellent. Do we have anybody else? Don't be shy. If anybody wants, just type into the chat, or I can turn your mic on. Just let me know. I'm just trying to, so we don't get any feedback or noise from the environment here. Try to keep it so we can all hear each other. Anybody else? Oh, hey, Kevin, let us know about the your experience with the Million Cup thing. I'm really curious. I know we talked a little bit about it. Give us some insight in, because they do an intensive vetting program. They don't just let anybody get up on stage and just start spouting off. I mean, you gotta be legit. You gotta bring it, and you gotta, be a legit organization or a person. They just don't let anybody up there. Give us some insight into that, Kevin.
Well, it actually was a good experience, and I'm definitely very grateful for it. Funny thing is, it was actually brought to me, and so I guess word was getting around, because me being a personable person, I can talk to a lot of people in a little bit of time. So with that in mind, being a part of the Chamber of Commerce, that also gave me a little bit of credibility with the A Million Cups organization, because they're also involved with the Chamber of Commerce here in town. And so we had an event. I believe it was like a cocktail event or something like that. And everyone came out, most businesses, other entrepreneurs, and even the leaders of A Million Cups. And so I happened to be, standing by, sharing my story, sharing different stories about myself, about Almost Home Solutions. And, I was overheard by someone from the team of 1 Million Cups, and they were like, "Hey, you should tell me more about that." And I was like, "I'd love to." And so the vetting process for me on a personal level, this doesn't happen with everybody, but just for me was literally a one-on-one interaction with a team member from 1 Million Cups themselves. And,
Wow.
just at the end of that conversation, they were like, "We should get you on." I was like, "Okay, what do I need to do?" And they were like, "Just go through this process, apply. Our leader will approve you. They'll have a meeting with you." And that was a great interaction, right? It was really a joyous time to be able to interact with the leaders of that organization, to be able to see that it is a national scale, that this has just happened to be a chapter of 1 Million Cups, but 1 Million Cups is all over the place. And I'm like, I'm surprised, I've never heard of this thing. And so just getting to be a part of it and getting to get in the room, to not only be on stage, but to be in the audience for the first several weeks up to meet with other entrepreneurs, to see other people give their presentations. It was like my first time being introduced to a community that actually supported, encouraged, and believed that entrepreneurship was necessary to the community that they lived in. So it really was a great experience. And if you want to check out the presentation that I gave with 1 Million Cups, it's actually on YouTube. It's on their YouTube channel, I believe. All you have to do is go to 1 Million Cups, 1 Million Cups North Dakota, I think, on YouTube.
Okay.
Or 1 Million Cups Bismarck. And it should be one of the videos that they have on there. So if you're interested in taking a look at it, you definitely can. But it was a lot of
Excellent.
fun. It was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to check that out. So any questions, anybody else? I know we're whittling down here. I know life happens. I know one of my clients, she was going into class and she was here for a little bit, but I'm gonna see if we can make sure I've got the program recording, and crossing fingers that the recording takes, and we'll post it on our website. So if anybody wasn't able to get on today, we'll have it on our website so they can take a look at it. Um, let's say, Kevin, somebody comes in and they don't qualify. From your experience, what are some of the things, just some of the general things that, might kind of slow down the process, not necessarily stop them dead in their tracks, but some of the things that they need to be mindful of, in your opinion and from your experience, that they should be mindful of, when they come into getting serious about this process?
What I would say is, really listening to your team. But what happens so just want to make sure I'm framing the question correctly. You said, what happens if someone doesn't qualify at the end of the program?
Or,
Yeah.
like when they're doing their first intake with you and you guys do your assessment, and, maybe there's some things there that you guys identify, hey, they're just not ready for home ownership yet. We need to work with them. What are some of those things that you guys, the little telltale signs that say, hey, we need to work with this guy before they get serious?
Oh, absolutely. Well, realistic credit score is definitely one of those things. We usually like to work with people in the 550 range. And so sometimes, people, are struggling a little bit more than that. And so what we try to do is we try to help them in that way. And so, what happens is, what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to look at people's situation and like figure out what exactly is going on. Because, everybody's, what happens to everybody is not the same as somebody else. Sometimes it's like we mentioned before, sometimes it's medical. It's not just dumb decisions, right? It's not like they got a credit card, had a $10,000 limit, and they went over it completely and just never, we look at realistic situations. We don't want to know who the person is on paper. We want to know who the person is in here, right? Like, are you serious about making this happen? And can we trust you to have the discipline that if we get a specific journey that we want you to take, that you actually take it, rather than going off the rails and doing something your own way? Because we'll always create a plan that fits your specific situation, even if that means, hey, we want to get you into a place, but we want you to get to this down payment first. We're not just going to leave you high and dry. We're going to say, okay, what are some things that you can do to get to this down payment? Do you have a family friend? Do you have something that you own? Do you have a way to get, a gift from anything? Like, we'll always sit down and come up with multiple scenarios at that start. If we say, hey, we want you to get over this hump first, we're going to be right there with you in the obstacle and say, here's what you can do to get to here so we can get you started. So we'll always be there with the process with people. And they usually work with us directly. We don't send anybody to anybody else at the start. They usually work with us directly, and we make other opportunities for them. To actually answer your question as well, when it comes to that down payment, we sat around as a team and we decided, what are some things that we can do to help people like get to that down payment? Like, what can we do? And we pretty much created this program that I've talked to you about before, where it's an opportunity for them to be able to share, hey, there's this company that does this thing, and they help families that aren't qualified yet get qualified. Well, guess what? If your credit is right, but you still need to get to that down payment, we actually do something to where if you refer us to a family and they come in and they work with us, then we'll send you $500 just for finding that person that we can help. And guess what? If you get to 1 person, 2 person, 3 person, 4 person, you could get from 2,000 to 5,000 to 10,000, just like that, whatever it is, just by coming in and working with us and us walking you through the program, telling you how it works. You could take that same information if you're just not in the place where you need to be, be able to go out and share it with other people, share it online. We have resources online that you can share just on Facebook. You don't even have to talk to people. You just set up a post on Facebook, and if somebody clicks on that post and they come in to our community and we help them out and we know that that came from you, then we'll send that invoice right over to, you send that invoice right over to us, and we'll send you $500 just like that.
Mhm. Wow.
So there's all types of ways that we sit around and we say, okay, if somebody's at the start and it just so happens that we don't qualify them, then what can we do to help them get to where we need them to be to get started in this process? And that was one of the things that we created, and being able to do other things as well.
I love your philosophy and how you look at this, that, and that's just kind of where I came from too, from economic development and working with entrepreneurs during my many years first as a packager and then as a project director. And I was so fortunate that I got an ex-banker, former Marine from the Vietnam era, tough as nails, and his sister was working out at United Tribes, and he had been semi-retired from one of the big system banks, and he just got fed up with the whole philosophy with where the banks were heading. It was kind of like used car salesman kind of a mentality, and he was just not happy with how they were getting away with traditional financing. And he, on a lark, just came to work for me. I needed a business professional in the office to help with our entrepreneurs and our contractors. And I learned so much from him. And that was one of the neatest things, when him and I would sit down and have our spitball sessions, trying to come up with ideas and solutions for clients, that were experiencing, issues, either whether it be at the new startup or whether it be at, oh my God, they're hemorrhaging tons of money here, they don't have any contracts, or their business is failing or whatever. If they would come to us early enough in the process, not at the midnight hour, but before, we could try to help them and save them. And I really do appreciate it. And I love your guys' thought process and the philosophy that you guys have too, that, we all come together as a team and try to help this individual or this family out to get where they want to go. So, I mean, it's awesome to hear that coming from almost home family here. So that's excellent. Anybody else? I see we're coming up on the 11:30 mark here, and MS Teams will be turning the lights out shortly here. So do we have anybody, do you have anyone else in the room here that has a question? Just give me a nudge in the chat here. If anybody, I'm going to just turn on the mics anyway. And if anybody wants to chime in, go right ahead. Kevin, what is your website address? What is it? Just to give people a...
Yeah, definitely. I'd love for you guys to go and take a look at it. It's www.almosthomefamily.com.
I highly recommend it. Whether it's for yourself or if you've got, family, relatives, people that are thinking of, but, they might be hitting a wall right now. This is definitely worth your time to take a look at this website. Kevin and his team have put this excellent website together. Very exhaustive. It goes in there and just explains everything to you. The FAQ is really invaluable. Go through that if you have any questions. And then if all else fails, you can send them your own questions and they will work with you to try and answer your questions that you might have with your situation. As Kevin said, and I've mentioned, everybody's background and their situation, that's always different. Life happens, so don't just automatically just check yourself out and say, oh, I'll never be able to, find out for sure. Reach out to Almost Home and find out for sure, what, if they can help or not, and then here at the center too, on the Native Inc. side of things, I know that we've got peer counselors that are working with a lot of people, that are in different situations with their home life, whether it's renting or they want to get into a home. So definitely check either Native Inc. or over here on the Native American Development Center side. We're here to help. Doesn't cost anything either. It's all a free service here in Bismarck, Mandan.
And talking to us is absolutely free as well. So there's no charge for any type of consultation. Ask away, like any questions that you have, even if you just want to learn to be able to share it with someone else. You know, we appreciate that the most. Like, I think I enjoy talking to people who are not in the situation for our service, but that we can give them the information as much as we possibly can to help them understand how it works. And then they go and tell someone that they know that's in the situation that's too, you know, embarrassed or too disappointed to come and ask. So they go talk to that person because they already have an established relationship. So even if you're a person who's already in a place where you're like, oh, well, I can already get home ownership, so I don't really need a program like that. Well, I guarantee there's probably someone in your life that you know that would like the opportunity. So ask questions as much as you can to be able to understand as much as you can to be able to share it with somebody else.
Right. You know, and I have to say too, the other intriguing part of this too also is, you know what, like we've been saying here, life happens. And let's say, you know, midstream, something happens, you know, it could be a plethora of things that happen in your life, and for whatever reason you might have to step away and walk away from the program. It That's just one of those things, and it's great that an organization, a company like yours, understands that. And if you can help them mitigate and maybe keep them in the program, but sometimes maybe it just isn't in the cards. But it's nice that, like you mentioned, that there is that option if they have to, you know, walk away. Yeah. Like to keep them in. I'm sure you would like to keep them in and have that success story, but life happens. So I understand that too. It's just like everything.
Life happens. Yep.
Yep. Yep. So if we don't have any other questions, you know, they're about to turn the lights out on me here. I don't want to just end abruptly here. So I would like to just extend my thank yous to everybody here in the room and those that popped in and out, and especially to you, Kevin. Thank you so much. I know that we'll be talking again soon here, and I will reach out to you, and I know we get people walking through our doors. I'll definitely give them the good word about Almost Home as well. So.
Perfect.
Anything else, Kevin, before we sign off?
Feel free, and I'll probably put this in the chat. Feel free, if you do have any questions, just you know, contact the team directly. I believe you can get to us at 701-696-9022. That's our team. Any question that you have, you know, text that number. We'll get you some information. We can get you media files to be able to share on social media. Yeah, you'll be able to have direct connection to the team, and we can get you whatever it is that you need, any questions you have or anything like that.
Can you repeat that number again?
701-696-9022.
Got it. Okay, excellent. Okay, well, again, thanks everybody. Thank you, Kevin. And next week, Thursday, same time, 10 a.m., I'll be talking about small business plans, the importance of those plans, and why they are very relevant to getting yourself into business. So if you know of anybody, if you're not interested, if you know native entrepreneurs out there, please send them our way. Get them my name and number, email. If they're not on our mailing list, I'll be happy to have them on the webinar next week at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you again, and we'll be signing off. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I'm glad we made it happen.
Yes, sir. It was a pleasure.
All right. Take care, everybody. Good night. Good morning. Good evening.